The galaxy never saw humanity coming. While the Grand Galactic Conclave debated border disputes and resource allocations across the known universe, humans worked silently in the shadows. For nearly 3 centuries, Earth's expansion occurred without fanfare, without grandstanding, without the pomp and ceremony that characterized the other spacefaring civilizations. Admiral Verica Okoye stood at the observation deck of the Terran flagship Nightshade, watching as her cloaked fleet maintained position near the Epsilon Eridani system. The massive vessel, like all ships in humanity's armada, was invisible to conventional detection systems. Her dark eyes reflected the distant stars as she contemplated humanity's strange path to this moment. "Status report, Commander Rochelle," she said, her voice calm despite the gravity of their mission. Commander Rochelle approached, his weathered face etched with concern. "Stealth systems functioning at optimal levels. The Craxians remain unaware of our presence. Their mining operations continue to expand into the neutral zone." Okoye nodded. The Craxians, a highly militaristic species of silicon-based life forms, had been slowly encroaching on territories near Earth's secret colonial outposts. Not that they knew humans were there. No one did. When humanity had first developed faster than light travel in 2189, the United Earth government had made an unprecedented decision: complete isolation. The ancient broadcasts that had escaped Earth's atmosphere over the centuries had revealed a universe teeming with life, much of it locked in various stages of conflict. The Astrographic Survey Corps had spent decades secretly mapping the political landscape of the galaxy, and what they discovered had been sobering. Peace was rare, resources were scarce, and those who announced themselves typically became targets. "Our colony on Proxima Centauri 4 reports that Craxian scout ships have been detected at the edge of the system," Rochelle continued. "They haven't detected our installations, but they're getting closer. The hidden colonies of humanity now numbered in the hundreds, spread across a surprising number of star systems, each one carefully concealed, each one building infrastructure, mining resources, and expanding humanity's reach, all while maintaining the strictest communications protocols to avoid detection. The Council wants to know if we recommend initiating protocol emergence," Rochelle said, referring to the contingency plan that had been in place since humanity's first tentative steps beyond the solar system. Okoye's fingers tightened on the rail. Protocol emergence. The end of humanity's self-imposed isolation. The revelation of their existence to the galaxy at large. On her neural implant, she reviewed the current state of the human sphere of influence. 327. Colonies across 94 star systems, a fleet of over 5,000 vessels, all equipped with technology centuries ahead of most galactic powers. Manufacturing capacity that dwarfed even the Conclave's central worlds. All hidden, all waiting. "The Craxians are only a symptom," said Dr. Elias Nassar, the fleet's chief xenopolitical advisor, as he joined them at the viewport. "Our intelligence suggests the Mhair Dominion has been supplying them with advanced sensor technology. If they're looking for us, it's because someone told them where to look." Okoye's brow furrowed. The Mhair, a race of highly evolved avian beings, had long been suspected of being aware of humanity's existence. Their remarkable sensory capabilities might have detected what others could not. "How much time do we have?" she asked. "At their current rate of expansion? 8 months, perhaps less, before they stumble upon New Zanzibar." Nassar's voice was grave. New Zanzibar was one of humanity's largest industrial centers, powering much of their shipbuilding operations in this sector. Rochelle cleared his throat. "Admiral, there's something else. We've intercepted communications suggesting the Craxians are planning to strike the Volari Union within the month." Okoye's head snapped up. The Volari, a peaceful species of aquatic philosophers, had been one of the few races humanity had considered making first contact with. Their ethics and values seemed compatible with human ideals. How severe? Total war, Admiral. The Craxians plan to seize the Volari homeworld as a strategic position against the Conclave. Okoye closed her eyes briefly. 3 centuries of silence. 3 centuries of preparation, all potentially coming to an end. Send word to Earth, she said finally. Tell them we may need to accelerate protocol emergence. As the message was sent, through quantum entanglement communicators, another technology humanity had perfected in secret, Okoye gazed out at the endless void where her invisible fleet waited. Humanity had risen in darkness, building power and influence, while the galaxy remained oblivious. Soon, they would step into the light. The Volari homeworld of Nixis was a jewel of blue-green oceans and floating archipelagos. From orbit, it resembled a marble of swirling azure and emerald patterns, peaceful and serene. That serenity was about to be shattered. The Craxian invasion fleet emerged from hyperspace with brutal efficiency. 118 warships, their crystalline hulls glinting in the light of Nixis's sun. They arranged themselves in attack, formation without bothering with the customary demands for surrender. The Volari had no military to speak of. Their society had evolved beyond warfare millennia ago. High Chancellor Lemire Voss of the Volari Union stood in the central chamber of the floating citadel, his translucent membranes pulsing with distress as he addressed the emergency council. The Craxians have disabled our orbital communications array, he said, his voice creating ripples in the water-filled chamber. We have no way to call for assistance from the Conclave. Elder Malus, her scales showing the iridescent blue of advanced age, spoke with resignation. Even if we could, help would not arrive in time. The nearest Conclave peacekeeping force is 3 days away at maximum speed. The council chamber fell silent. The Volari, for all their philosophical advancement and cultural richness, had maintained only token defensive capabilities. Their faith in diplomacy and mutual respect had left them vulnerable to species like the Craxians, who respected only power. We must attempt to negotiate, Voss said finally. Perhaps we can... A sudden vibration shook the floating citadel. A Craxian bombardment had begun. In orbit above Nixis, the Craxian flagship Silicate Claw methodically targeted Volari population centers. Fleet Commander Drex observed the destruction with cold satisfaction, his crystalline exoskeleton glinting under the command deck's lights. Continue the bombardment, he ordered. Once their coastal cities are reduced to rubble, begin landing. Operations. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Kryvax, shifted uncomfortably. Commander, our intelligence indicated the Volari would offer no resistance. This seems... excessive. Drex fixed Kryvax with a cold stare. The Dominion wants this world. The method of acquisition is irrelevant. Suddenly, alarms blared across the command deck. Unidentified ships dropping out of hyperspace. A sensor, officer reported, panic edging into his voice. Many ships! Hundreds! Drex whirled toward the main view screen. Impossible! Display! The space around the Craxian fleet seemed to shimmer, and then, as if materializing from nowhere, a vast armada appeared. Ships of an unfamiliar design, sleek, dark, and predatory, surrounded the Craxian forces in a perfect containment formation. By the Crystal Throne, Kryvax whispered. Where did they come from? Admiral Okoye stood on the bridge of the Nightshade, surveying the tactical display. All ships maintain position, she ordered. Weapons hot, but hold fire. Let's see how they respond to our presence. The Terran fleet had arrived just in time, each ship dropping its advanced cloaking technology simultaneously for maximum psychological impact. The effect was precisely as intended. The Craxian formation had faltered, their bombardment of Nixis pausing as they adjusted to this unexpected development. Open a channel, Okoye commanded. All frequencies. When the communications officer nodded, she spoke clearly and firmly. This is Admiral Verica Okoye of the Terran Defense Force. You are engaged in an unprovoked attack against a peaceful civilization. Cease hostilities immediately and withdraw from this system. On the Craxian flagship, Drex's crystalline appendages twitched in confusion. Terran? There is no such species in the Conclave Registry. After a moment's consideration, he responded. Unidentified fleet. This is Fleet Commander Drex of the Craxian Imperium. This matter does not concern you. Withdraw or be destroyed. Okoye's expression remained impassive. Commander Rochelle, target. Their weapons systems. Precision strikes only. Before the Craxians could react, 50 Terran destroyers fired simultaneously. Beams of concentrated energy struck the Craxian vessels with surgical precision, disabling their primary weapons arrays without destroying the ships themselves. In the floating citadel, the Volari Council watched in stunned silence as the view screens showed their unexpected saviors in action. Who are they? Elder Milas whispered. In all our records, there is no mention of these Terrans. Voss shook his head slowly. They have been hidden from us. But the question is, why reveal themselves now? Back on the Nightshade, Okoye received the report of the successful strikes. The Craxian fleet was effectively neutralized, their weapons disabled. Admiral, Rochelle said, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. The Council has approved Protocol Emergence. Okoye nodded gravely. Then it's time. Prepare a delegation for planetfall on Nixis, and inform the Conclave that humanity would like to introduce itself. As the Terran ships maintained their position around the disabled Craxian fleet, Okoye reflected on the irony of the situation. For centuries, humanity had hidden in the shadows, building strength in secret. Now, they were stepping onto the galactic stage not as supplicants or newcomers, but as protectors. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human influence had begun. The Grand Galactic Conclave convened in emergency session for the first time in 6 decades. The massive chamber on the artificial world of Nexus Prime accommodated representatives from over 700 spacefaring civilizations, each seated according to their species' needs and diplomatic status. Today, all attention was focused on the delegation that stood in the center of the chamber. 5 humans, the first official representatives of Earth to address the conclave. Ambassador Kaveri Maharaj, appointed as humanity's voice, stood calmly before the assembled delegates. Behind her stood Admiral Okoye, Commander Rochelle, Dr. Nassar, and Fleet Intelligence Director Norin Quinn. Their presence, indeed, their very existence, had thrown the conclave into chaos. Supreme Arbiter Zolelka, a methane-breathing entity, composed of interlinked silicon structures, spoke first. Its voice translated through the chamber's systems. This emergency session has been called to address the sudden appearance of a previously unknown spacefaring civilization calling themselves humans or Terrans. Their intervention in the Nixis conflict and their claim to possess numerous established colonies across multiple sectors requires immediate attention. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Craxian representative, a hastily appointed diplomat named Tizar, rose to speak. The so-called intervention was an unprovoked attack on Craxian. Forces engaged in legitimate territorial expansion, he declared. These humans have no standing in conclave affairs. Ambassador Maharaj remained composed. When acknowledged by the arbiter, she stepped forward. Esteemed members of the conclave, she began, her voice clear and measured. Humanity has existed alongside you for centuries, observing and learning. Our choice to remain hidden was not made out of malice, but caution. The history of our own world taught us that new civilizations are often viewed as either resources to be exploited or threats to be eliminated. She activated a holographic display showing the extent of human territory, 94 star systems, containing hundreds of colonies, all established without detection. We chose to build our strength in secret until we could enter galactic society as equals. Our intervention at Nixus was not our first choice for introduction, but we could not stand by while a peaceful civilization was annihilated. The Volari, Representative Chancellor Voss, rose next. The humans saved our world from destruction. Whatever their reasons for concealment, their actions speak to their character. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices. The Meher delegate, a tall avian being with iridescent feathers, called for order. "I am Sovereign Vizier Kalreth of the Meher Dominion," he announced when silence finally fell. "And I must confess that we have been aware of human presence for nearly 50 years. This admission sent another wave of shocked conversation through the assembly. Kalreth continued, "Our sensory capabilities allowed us to detect anomalies that suggested concealed activity. Rather than expose them, we chose to observe. What we discovered was remarkable, a species expanding with unprecedented efficiency, yet doing so without displacing others or starting conflicts." Admiral Okoye exchanged a glance with Quinn. The intelligence director's expression confirmed what she had suspected. The Meher had indeed been watching them, just as they had been watching the Meher. The Arbiter called for order once more. "The question before us is clear. How do we integrate a civilization that has developed in secret, possessing technology and military capabilities that may rival the major powers of the Conclave?" Ambassador Maharaj addressed the concern directly. "We come neither as conquerors nor as supplicants. We seek equal standing based on our demonstrated capabilities and our commitment to preserving peace. The protection of Nixus was not a political calculation, but a moral imperative." She paused, then added, "Humanity has observed the Conclave's numerous conflicts and power struggles. We chose to reveal ourselves now because we believe we can contribute to a more stable galaxy." The Craxian representative scoffed. "They speak of peace while their warships surround our fleet. They claim moral superiority while admitting to centuries of deception." Director Quinn stepped forward, receiving a nod from Maharaj. "If I may address the Craxian concerns," he said. "Our intelligence division has compiled extensive evidence of communication between the Craxian Imperium and the Meher Dominion regarding human colonies. The attack on Nixus was partially intended to flush us out of hiding." He projected documentation showing encrypted communications that confirmed his assertion. The Craxian delegate's crystalline structure pulsed with agitation. Kalreth's feathers rustled. "The Dominion acknowledges these communications but maintains that our interest was purely scientific. We did not anticipate the Craxian response." As the political maneuvering continued, Admiral Okoye observed the reactions of the various delegates. Some showed fear, others calculation, and a few, like the Volari, displayed cautious optimism. "This is only the beginning," Dr. Nassar whispered to her. "The real negotiations will happen behind closed doors." Okoye nodded imperceptibly. Humanity had prepared for this moment for generations. Their colonies were self-sufficient, their military strategically positioned, and their technological advantages secure. They had revealed themselves from a position of strength, not weakness. As the session continued, Ambassador Maharaj articulated humanity's vision for cooperation with the Conclave. The message was clear. Humanity was not asking for permission to exist in the galactic community. They were announcing their presence as a fully formed power, ready to take their place among the stars. The curtain had risen, and humanity had stepped onto the stage, not as understudies, but as lead actors in the cosmic drama. The diplomatic quarter of Nexus Prime buzzed with activity in the weeks following humanity's dramatic entrance onto the galactic stage. Backroom deals, secret alliances, and whispered threats flowed through the corridors of power like currents in a dark ocean. Director Norrin Quinn moved through this environment with practiced ease, his unassuming appearance belying his role as Earth's Chief Intelligence Officer. He sat in a private meeting chamber, facing Archivist Pell, a member of the ancient Lorethi species whose neural pathways connected directly to the Conclave's historical archives. "You understand my skepticism, Director," Pell said, her translucent skin pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. "Humanity claims to have hidden in plain sight for centuries, yet our historical records contain no mention of your kind before your intervention at Nixus." Quinn smiled slightly. "That was rather the point, Archivist. We didn't want to be found. But to conceal an entire civilization across 94 star systems? The logistics alone would be challenging," Quinn finished for her. "We developed technologies specifically for this purpose. Adaptive camouflage for our structures, emission dampeners for our ships, and, most importantly, discipline in our expansion protocols." He produced a small device and activated it, generating a privacy field around them. "But you didn't request this meeting to express admiration for our stealth capabilities." Pell's bioluminescence shifted to a deeper blue. "No. I've discovered something concerning. There are gaps in our archives, specific references to unexplained phenomena that correlate with regions of space now known to contain human colonies." Quinn maintained his composed expression, but his mind raced. The Lorethi collective memory was renowned for its precision and comprehensiveness. If they had detected patterns related to human activity, others might have as well. "These gaps," he said carefully, "what form do they take?" "Redactions. Unauthorized and sophisticated ones." Pell's inner light pulsed with agitation. "Someone has been systematically altering Conclave records, possibly for decades. Elsewhere on Nexus Prime, Admiral Okoye and Commander Richel were engaged in their own delicate negotiations with representatives of the Conclave's military council. Grand Marshal Zevran of the Talaxian hegemony, a heavily armored reptilian with ceremonial scars across his scaled face, regarded the human officers with undisguised suspicion. "Your fleet appeared out of nowhere to neutralize a Craxian battle group," he said, his voice a low rumble. "That suggests capabilities that should have been impossible to develop in isolation." Okoye met his gaze steadily. "Not impossible, Marshal, just difficult. And expensive," added Vice Executor Leon of the Seraphim Collective, her 6 iridescent wings folded formally behind her. "The resources required to build a fleet of that size while maintaining secrecy would be astronomical." Richel cleared his throat. "We were very efficient with our resource allocation, and we had time." The third member of the military council, Warlord Kazench of the Voth hierarchy, leaned forward. Unlike his colleagues, his expression showed not suspicion, but grudging respect. "You chose your moment well," he said, his voice carrying the metallic undertone common to his cybernetically enhanced species. "The Craxian attack on Nixus provided moral justification for your revelation, but I suspect your emergence was inevitable regardless." Okoye nodded slightly. "There were factors accelerating our timetable. In yet another corner of the diplomatic quarter, Ambassador Maharaj faced perhaps the most challenging audience of all, the Commerce Consortium, representing the economic interests that truly governed much of the Conclave's activities. The sudden appearance of human markets and resources will destabilize trade routes established over millennia, argued Princepex Vorn Dath, a being composed of living metal who controlled the largest mining conglomerate in the galaxy. Compensation must be made to affected interests. Maharaj had anticipated this. "We have no intention of disrupting existing economic structures. In fact, we propose a phased integration that would benefit all parties." "Pretty words," countered Magnate Oshura, her gelatinous form rippling with skepticism. "But human technology already threatens to render many of our industries obsolete. Your stealth systems alone would revolutionize transportation security, which is why we're offering limited licensing agreements as a gesture of good faith," Maharaj replied smoothly. "Humanity doesn't seek economic domination. We seek partnership." As these meetings proceeded, Dr. Nassar was conducting his own investigation. The xenopolitical advisor had noticed discrepancies in the reactions of certain conclave members to humanity's emergence, specifically those who seemed less surprised than they should have been. In a dimly lit establishment that catered to various species intoxicant needs, Nassar met with a Jandari information broker named Visak, a being of pure energy contained within an environmental suit. "The Mher claim they discovered your existence 50 years ago," Visak said, his voice crackling with static. "But my sources suggest they've known about humanity for much longer. And they weren't the only ones." Nassar leaned closer. "Who else?" "The Voth, the Seraphim. Possibly elements within the Talaxian hegemony. They've been tracking unusual patterns in resource disappearance, gravitational anomalies, and other subtle signs. If they knew we existed, why not confront us?" Visak's energy form pulsed with what might have been amusement. "Why confront what you can study?" Some were content to observe humanity's development from a distance. Others saw potential value in a hidden civilization developing parallel technologies. Nassar processed this information. And the Craxians? Latecomers to the game. When they learned of humanity's existence, they saw only a threat to eliminate or subjugate. The attack on Nixus was indeed partially designed to draw you out, but not solely by Craxian initiative. As these various threads of conversation unfolded across Nexus Prime, a more sinister meeting took place in a shielded chamber deep within, the station's core. 7 figures, each representing a different species but all wearing identical obsidian masks, gathered around a table inlaid with ancient symbols. "The humans have complicated matters," said the tallest figure, voice distorted through its mask. "Our timetable must be adjusted." "Or accelerated," countered another. "Their emergence provides a unique opportunity. The greatest changes occur during periods of chaos." "They shouldn't exist," hissed a third. "Our models predicted no such development. How did they remain hidden for so long?" The leader of the group raised a hand for silence. "What matters now is not how they hid, but what they know. If they've discovered traces of the precursors..." The room fell silent at the mention of this forbidden topic. "Then we must ensure they never share that knowledge," concluded the leader. "The veil must be maintained." As night fell on Nexus Prime, humanity's representatives reconvened in their secure quarters to share what they had learned. The galactic stage was more complex than even their centuries of observation had revealed, and humanity's emergence had disturbed currents that had been flowing in darkness for millennia. The game had changed. The shadows had deepened, and behind the whispers of diplomats and the calculations of merchants lurked secrets that could reshape the very foundations of galactic civilization. The human embassy on Nexus Prime had been hastily established in a section of the diplomatic quarter that had previously housed minor non-aligned worlds. Despite the rushed arrangements, Terran security had transformed the space into a fortress. Quantum encryption fields, anti-surveillance countermeasures, and discrete defensive systems ensured that humanity's new public face remained secure. Admiral Okoye, Ambassador Maharaj, and the rest of the human delegation gathered in the central strategy room, its walls lined with holographic displays showing various sectors of known space. "The political situation is evolving rapidly," Maharaj reported. "The Conclave has officially recognized humanity as a sovereign power, but various factions are already maneuvering to either ally with us or isolate us." Okoye nodded grimly. "The military council is divided. Some see us as a potential destabilizing force, others as a counterbalance to existing powers." Director Quinn, however, looked deeply troubled. "We have a more immediate concern. Our deep cover agents have intercepted communications suggesting coordinated action against human interests." He activated a holographic display showing encrypted transmissions between various stellar locations. These communications use a protocol we've never encountered before, but the content we've been able to decrypt references something called the Veil and suggests a group called the Keepers views humanity as a threat. Dr. Nassar stroked his beard thoughtfully. My conversation with the Gendari broker suggested something similar. Apparently, several major powers have known about us for longer than they've admitted, and they've been concealing that knowledge from each other. Commander Rochelle furrowed his brow. But why? What possible advantage would they gain from keeping our existence secret if they knew about us? Unless, Maharaj said slowly, our presence threatens something larger than individual political interests. A tense silence fell over the room as they considered the implications. There's something else, Quinn added. A Lorethi archivist named Pell has discovered evidence of systematic tampering with Conclave historical records, specifically, records that might have contained references to human activity. Okoye's expression darkened. Someone has been helping keep us hidden, without our knowledge. Or, Nassar suggested, they've been keeping something else hidden, and our secrecy was an unintended benefit. The meeting was interrupted by an urgent communication. A junior officer appeared on the main screen, his expression tense. Admiral, we've just received a priority message from the Terran outpost in the Proxima Centauri system. They've detected an unidentified vessel approaching New Zanzibar. It's using some kind of advanced cloaking technology. Our sensors barely picked it up. Okoye straightened. Have they attempted communication? Yes, Admiral. No response. The vessel appears to be on an intercept course with Research Station Omega. The human delegation exchanged alarmed glances. Research Station Omega housed some of humanity's most sensitive projects, including the study of artifacts discovered during their colonial expansion. Deploy the 7th Fleet to intercept, Okoye ordered. I want that vessel identified and its intentions determined. As the officer acknowledged the order, Dr. Nassar pulled up information on a separate display. Research Station Omega, that's where we've been studying the Epsilon artifact, isn't it? Maharaj nodded gravely. Yes. The object we found embedded in the moon of Epsilon Eridani 4, the one with markings similar to those we've discovered on 7 other worlds. Quinn's eyes narrowed. The artifacts that predate all known galactic civilizations. The precursor. Artifacts, Nassar confirmed. If someone knows we found them. Meanwhile, in the central archives of Nexus Prime, archivist Pell was conducting her own investigation. The Lorethi's connection to the information systems allowed her to process data at tremendous speeds, searching for patterns that would escape notice by others. She had isolated a specific set of data anomalies, instances where information appeared to have been altered or removed from the archives. When mapped against known space, these anomalies formed a distinct pattern, a network of stellar coordinates that corresponded to locations where unusual gravitational readings had been detected over the centuries. Locations that, Pell now realized, matched perfectly with the coordinates of several human colonies. As she prepared to document her findings, the archive chamber's doors slid open. 7 figures entered, each wearing an obsidian mask. Archivist Pell, said the leader, voice distorted. Your access to these records ends now. Pell's bioluminescence flared in alarm. You have no authority here. This is a violation of... We are the Keepers, interrupted the figure. We have maintained the veil for 12,000 years. The archives are our domain as they have always been. Pell backed away, her connection to the archives rapidly downloading as much data as possible before they could sever it. The Conclave has a right to know the truth. The Conclave exists because we allow it, replied the leader coldly. Some knowledge must remain buried. Back at the human embassy, alarms suddenly blared. Security systems indicated a breach in the outer perimeter. Multiple hostiles, reported a security officer. They've bypassed our primary defenses somehow. As the human delegation mobilized, Quinn received an urgent transmission from one of his agents. Director, we've identified the group behind the coordinated actions against us. They call themselves the Keepers, and they appear to have operatives embedded throughout the Conclave power structure. Before Quinn could respond, the transmission was abruptly cut off. The embassy's power systems fluctuated and then stabilized. As backup generators engaged, we need to evacuate, Okoye decided. Now, get to the shuttle bay. As they moved through the embassy's corridors, Nassar matched pace with the Admiral. This isn't just about us revealing ourselves, is it? This is about what we found during our expansion. Okoye shook her head grimly. We thought we were hiding from the galaxy, but it seems the galaxy has been hiding something from itself. The group reached the shuttle bay just as the embassy's inner security doors began to fail. Through the reinforced windows, they could see figures in obsidian masks moving methodically through the complex. Get the ambassador off station, Okoye ordered Rochelle. Take the diplomatic shuttle. Quinn, Nassar, you're with me. We'll take the secondary vessel back to the Nightshade. As Maharaj and Rochelle's shuttle launched, evading the suddenly chaotic Nexus Prime security forces, Okoye received another urgent communication. Admiral, 7th Fleet has engaged the unidentified vessel at New Zanzibar. They report that it's not alone. Multiple vessels have decloaked. They're using technology we've never seen before. Okoye's jaw tightened. Get us to the Nightshade now. We're heading to Proxima Centauri immediately. As their shuttle broke away from Nexus Prime, Quinn studied the data they had managed to salvage from their embassy systems. These Keepers, he said quietly. They've been manipulating Conclave records for millennia, erasing evidence of something, called the Cataclysm, and any references to the precursors. Nassar looked up sharply. The same precursors whose artifacts we've been finding? Quinn nodded slowly. And according to this, the locations of those artifacts form a pattern, a map to something called the Nexus of Ascension. Okoye stared out at the stars as their shuttle accelerated toward her flagship. The irony is almost poetic, she said finally. We hid ourselves from the galaxy, only to discover that the galaxy has been hiding something far greater from everyone. As the shuttle docked with the Nightshade, Okoye knew that humanity's careful emergence from the shadows had inadvertently pulled back a much older and more dangerous veil, one that had concealed secrets meant to stay buried for eternity. Supper. War to discover humanity had begun. But it was rapidly becoming clear that this conflict was merely the first skirmish in a much larger struggle. One that would determine not just humanity's place in the galaxy, but the fate of all intelligent life. The Nightshade emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system, its stealth systems engaging immediately. Admiral Okoye stood at the command center, her face illuminated by the tactical displays showing the unfolding battle. The 7th Fleet was engaged with vessels unlike any humanity had encountered before. Ships that seemed to phase in and out of normal space, their hulls composed of a material that absorbed energy weapons with minimal damage. Status report, Okoye ordered. The unidentified vessels are attempting to breach Research Station Omega's defenses, reported the tactical officer. They've disabled 3 of our cruisers already. Their technology is advanced, Admiral. Director Quinn studied the sensor, readings with growing concern. Those ships don't match any known Conclave design. They're using some kind of dimensional phasing technology. The Keepers, Nassar said quietly. They must be after the Epsilon artifact. Okoye made her decision quickly. Deploy the Thanatos Protocol. The bridge fell silent. The Thanatos Protocol was a last resort weapon system developed in secret during humanity's hidden years, a technology so dangerous that its existence had been classified at the highest levels. Are you certain, Admiral? Quinn asked. Once deployed, there's no recalling it. If these Keepers get their hands on the artifact network we've discovered, we may face something far worse than exposed colonies. Okoye's voice was firm. Proceed with deployment. As the Nightshade moved to join the battle, 6 specialized vessels detached from the human fleet. Each contained a device that could manipulate the fabric of space-time itself, technology reversed engineered from fragments of precursor artifacts found during humanity's expansion. On Research Station Omega, Dr. Likos Vainin worked frantically to secure the Epsilon artifact. The station shook from repeated impacts as the Keeper's vessels attempted to breach its defenses. "We need to activate the resonance sequence," he told his team. "If the artifact network is truly a system rather than a collection of isolated objects, this may be our only chance to learn its purpose." Chief Researcher Mira Volkov looked up from her console, her expression grave. "If we activate the sequence without understanding its purpose, we could trigger something we can't control. And if the Keepers take possession of the artifacts, they'll either destroy them or use them for their own ends," Vainin countered. "We have no choice." Another explosion rocked the station. The security systems reported multiple breaches in the outer research sections. "They're inside the station," warned Security Chief Jarrell. "Estimate 10 minutes before they reach the artifact chamber." Vainin nodded grimly and placed his palm on the biometric scanner. A hidden compartment opened, revealing a crystalline device, pulsing with inner light, a key composed of materials found within each of the 8 precursor artifacts humanity had discovered. "Begin evacuation protocols," he ordered. "Get everyone to the escape pods. I'll initiate the sequence." As his team reluctantly complied, Vainin established a secure channel to the Nightshade. "Admiral Okoye, this is Dr. Vainin. The Keepers have breached the station. I'm preparing to activate the artifact network." Okoye's voice came through clearly, despite the interference. "Understood, Doctor. The Thanatos protocol has been deployed. You have 7 minutes before it reaches your position." Vainin swallowed hard. The Thanatos protocol, a weapon that could collapse the fabric of space-time within a localized area. It would destroy the station, the artifact, and anything else within its radius. "Acknowledged, Admiral. I'll work quickly." In the space around New Zanzibar, the battle intensified. The Keeper's ships fought with frightening efficiency, but the human fleet held its ground. The specialized vessels carrying the Thanatos devices moved into strategic positions, preparing to create a containment field around the station. Aboard the Nightshade, Dr. Nassar approached Okoye with new information. "Admiral, I've completed my analysis of the data we recovered from Nexus Prime. The Keepers aren't just hiding information about the precursors, they're hiding the fact that the precursors are still active." Okoye turned sharply. "What?" "The evidence suggests the civilization we call precursors didn't vanish or go extinct as most galactic historians believe. They ascended to a higher dimensional state. The artifacts are nodes in a network designed to allow communication with their plane of existence." Quinn joined them, his expression grim. "And if the Keepers have been suppressing this knowledge for millennia, then whatever happened during the cataclysm was bad enough that they've dedicated themselves to preventing it from happening." "Again," Nassar finished. On Research Station Omega, Vainin carefully inserted the crystalline key into the Epsilon artifact. The ancient object, a metallic sphere covered in geometric patterns, began to pulse with energy. Holographic displays appeared around it, showing the locations of the other 7 artifacts scattered across human space. "Initiating resonance sequence," Vainin murmured, entering commands into his specialized interface. The door to the artifact chamber shuddered under heavy impact. The Keepers were attempting to break through. Vainin worked faster, his fingers dancing across the controls as the artifact's energy signature intensified. The holographic display shifted, showing energy waves propagating from the Epsilon artifact to the others across vast distances, instantaneous communication that defied known physics. "Come on," he urged. "Show us what you were built for." The door to the chamber buckled inward. Figures in obsidian masks entered, weapons raised. "Step away from the artifact," commanded their leader. "You don't understand what you're tampering with." Vanin didn't turn away from his work. Neither do you, or you wouldn't be trying to keep it hidden. The leader approached slowly. The precursor's ascension nearly destroyed this galaxy. The dimensional rift they created unleashed energies that consumed entire star systems. We have spent 12,000 years ensuring that calamity is never repeated. Or perhaps, Vanin countered, you've spent 12,000 years preventing the rest of us from following them. He entered the final command sequence. The artifact flared with blinding light, its energy connecting with the network across human space. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the fabric of reality itself appeared to ripple. A tear opened. In the center of the chamber, not destructive, but a carefully controlled portal through which poured light of impossible colors. "What have you done?" whispered the Keeper leader. From the portal emerged a figure composed of pure energy, vaguely humanoid, but shifting constantly between different forms. When it spoke, the words seemed to form directly in the minds of everyone present. "We have waited so long for someone to answer our call." In space, the human fleet and the Keeper's vessels suddenly found themselves frozen in place, held by an immense energy field emanating from Research Station Omega. Aboard the Nightshade, Okoye watched in awe as the sensors registered power levels, beyond anything they could measure. "The Thanatos devices," she ordered. "Deactivate them immediately." On the station, Vanin stood transfixed, as the energy being regarded him with what felt like curiosity. "You are not the first to discover our network, but you are the first to activate it properly in many thousands of your years." The Keeper leader had fallen to his knees. "The Ascended. You were never meant to return." The being turned its attention to the Keeper. "You and your order have misunderstood our intentions. We did not abandon this plane of existence. We evolved beyond it, but we never intended to sever all connection." More energy beings began to emerge from the portal, each unique yet similar in their composed nature. "The cataclysm was not our ascension," continued the first being. "It was the work of those who feared what our discovery would mean, those who became the first keepers. They attempted to destroy our network, and in doing so, caused the very devastation they claimed to prevent." The truth washed over the chamber like a physical force. The Keepers had not been protecting the galaxy from the precursors. They had been hiding their own ancient crime, perpetuating a lie for millennia to maintain their influence. "Why now?" asked Vanin. "Why answer when humanity activated the network?" The being seemed to smile, though it had no fixed face. "Because you did what no other species has done. You developed in isolation, hidden from the corrupting influence of those who would maintain the old order. Your perspective is refreshing." The portal stabilized, becoming a permanent bridge between dimensions. "We offer neither salvation nor destruction," the being explained, "merely connection, knowledge, the opportunity for all sentient life to reach beyond its current limitations." In that moment, as human ships and Keeper vessels hung motionless in space, as representatives of humanity's secret rise to power stood, face to face with both ancient guardians and ascended beings, the true stakes became clear. Humanity had hidden in the shadows not by accident, but by design. Guided subtly by forces they never suspected, positioned to become the catalyst for galactic revelation. The age of secrets was ending. The age of ascension was beginning, and the galaxy would never be the same again. 1 year after the events at Research Station Omega, the Grand Galactic Conclave convened in a new chamber, one built specifically to accommodate representatives from both physical and ascended realms. Ambassador Maharaj, now elevated to the position of Earth's principal emissary, stood beside Admiral Okoye as they watched delegates from across the galaxy gather for this historic assembly. "Did you ever imagine our emergence would lead to this?" Maharaj asked quietly. Okoye shook her head. "When we developed our stealth technology, it was for survival. When we built our colonies in secret, it was for security. We never dreamed we were fulfilling a plan set in motion thousands of years ago. The revelation of the precursors, now known properly as the Ascended, had transformed galactic society. The dimensional bridges established through the artifact network allowed for unprecedented communication between physical beings and those who had evolved beyond conventional matter. The Keepers had been exposed, their millennia of manipulation laid bare. Some had fled into the unknown regions of space, but others had surrendered to face judgment from the civilizations they had deceived. Director Quinn approached, datapad in hand. The final reports from New Terra. The dimensional stabilization project is complete. It's our 9th successful bridge. Humanity, with its unique perspective and technology, had become the primary intermediaries between the physical and ascended realms. Human colonies, once hidden in darkness, now served as nexus points where different forms of consciousness could interact. And the Craxians? Asked Okoye. Still resistant, Quinn admitted, but isolated. Most of their former allies have signed the Omega Accords. The Omega Accords, named for the research station where everything had changed, established new principles for galactic cooperation. Knowledge would be shared, not hoarded. Power would be balanced, not concentrated. And the path to ascension would be open to all species who sought it. The chamber fell silent as the Supreme Arbiter called the assembly to order. The traditional silicon-based entity had been replaced by a council representing physical and ascended beings alike. "We gather to mark the first anniversary of the revelation," announced the Arbiter, "and to recognize those whose actions made this new era possible." A section of the chamber seemed to shimmer as ascended beings manifested, not physically present, but projecting their consciousness through the dimensional bridge. Among them was the entity who had first emerged on Research Station Omega, now known by the name it had offered, Lumina. "The path of evolution is never straight," Lumina addressed the assembly. "For 12,000 years our attempts to reconnect with this plane were thwarted. Yet in humanity we found what we had long sought, a species that developed without knowledge of the artificial limitations imposed by the Keepers." Dr. Vanen, now heading the Interdimensional Research Coalition, stood at a podium nearby. The scientist had become a bridge himself of sorts, one of the few humans who could communicate directly with the Ascended without technological assistance. "What we've learned in 1 year surpasses millennia of previous scientific advancement," he told the assembly. "But more important than the technology is the perspective, the understanding that existence isn't limited to a single form or dimension." View screens throughout the chamber. Images displayed the transformation that had begun across the galaxy. New cities built to accommodate both physical and energy-based life forms. Ships that could navigate between dimensional states. Medical breakthroughs that had extended lifespans and cured diseases once thought incurable. Commander Richel, recently promoted to Fleet Admiral of the Combined Defensive Forces, joined Okoye at the observation balcony. "The Mher delegation is requesting another audience," he informed her. "They're eager to establish a dimensional bridge in their home system." Okoye nodded. "Schedule it for next week, but ensure they understand our conditions. Open access, no restricted knowledge." The irony wasn't lost on either of them. Humanity, once the most secretive civilization in the galaxy, had become the champions of transparency and shared advancement. As the ceremony continued, Dr. Nassar approached with Chancellor Voss of the Valari. The aquatic philosopher's membranes shimmered with patterns of deep satisfaction. "Your intervention saved my people," Voss said to Okoye. "But what followed has saved us all from ignorance far more profound than we realized." Nassar smiled. "We've analyzed the subtle markers left by the Ascended throughout human history. They guided our development from afar, not controlling, but nudging, inspiring key innovations at critical moments, ensuring we remained hidden until we were ready." And the keepers never suspected, Okoye mused. They were so focused on suppressing knowledge of the Ascended that they missed the Ascended's quiet influence on Earth. In the center of the chamber, Ambassador Maharaj addressed the assembled delegates. Her words echoed through the vast space, broadcast to trillions across the galaxy. 1 year ago, humanity stepped from shadow into light. We revealed ourselves not as conquerors or supplicants, but as equals seeking our place among the stars. What we discovered was that our place, and indeed, the place of all sentient beings, is greater than any of us imagined. She gestured to the dimensional bridge pulsing softly at the heart of the chamber. Evolution does not end with physical form. Consciousness can transcend matter. Knowledge need not be hoarded or feared. These truths, hidden for millennia, now light our way forward. As she spoke, the dimensional bridge flared, casting rainbow hues across the assembled delegates. Physical and energy beings alike turned toward it as a new presence made itself known, one more ancient and profound than even the Ascended had described. The cycle continues, it communicated, not in words but in concepts that formed in the minds of all present, as it was meant to. Understanding washed over the assembly. The Ascended had once been physical beings who evolved beyond their forms. But they themselves were merely one step in an even longer evolutionary journey, one that continued into dimensions beyond even their comprehension. The cosmic dance was vaster and more beautiful than anyone had imagined. In that moment of collective realization, Admiral Okoye thought back to Earth's decision centuries ago to hide itself from a galaxy it perceived as dangerous. That caution, that patience, that quiet building of strength in darkness had positioned humanity to become the fulcrum upon which the entire future of conscious life would turn. They had risen in shadow only to emerge as bearers of the greatest light the galaxy had ever known. As the dimensional being retreated and the assembly erupted in voices of wonder and speculation, Okoye smiled. Humanity's hidden rise to power had been merely prologue. The true story, one of ascension and evolution for all sentient life, was only beginning. The war that had discovered humanity had ended. The peace that humanity had discovered would endure for eons to come, and in the vast, multidimensional tapestry of existence, that was merely the first thread of a pattern more magnificent than any species alone could have woven.